Hi, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is the Small Business Coffee Break, sponsored by the entrepreneurs community on Google+. And this is an informal, no agenda meeting. People can talk about whatever they want. We're going to try to forget the computer, the cameras on at all. I was going to say no cussing and swearing, but if you want to cuss and swear, go ahead. Anyway, I thought before we kind of get a little bit looser here, we'd just go around and kind of formally introduce ourselves. I'd like to know what city people are in. So if you could tell us what city you're in, and just what you're doing now, what your business is. Doesn't have to be an elevator speech, just a little bit about what you're doing. So let's start on my screen, left to right. Why am I not seeing names here? The gentleman on the far right on my screen, I don't know how to describe people.
You got a mouse over it. Are you talking about Christopher?
Is that Christopher? Yeah. Hi, Christopher. Just tell us a little. What city are you in, Christopher? What are you up to these days?
I'm in King William, Virginia, or Central Garage, Virginia. I have a boiler. I have an industrial boiler company. I think I've been on a few of your things with you.
Oh, yeah. You've got a real business.
I don't know. I think I work myself to death half the time, but I'm taking today and tomorrow off, and I will start back into things again on the weekend and just do nothing but emergency work. I need a couple of days off, and this is one of the days I decided to take. I'm happy to be able to join your group. Well, not join your group, but join your discussion because I've gotten a lot of insight and a lot of information from these discussion groups.
Oh, great. Well, I didn't do them for a while for a couple reasons. I had some life setbacks earlier in the year, and then mysteriously my Hangout stopped working. They stopped. Nobody knew what was wrong, and then suddenly they just started again. so I don't know what that means. So we'll come back to you, Chris. I'm kind of interested in what emergency situation, but let's come back to that, and let's talk to. Damn, I'm not seeing names here.
You got a mouse
young lady.
I think it's Katie.
No, Katie. Katie, can you hear us? Katie can't hear us yet. Katie, jump back in when your mic's on. And Keith, I know you've already told us a little bit. Why don't you? What city are you in, Keith? And tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing.
I'm in Philadelphia, and my company's DAO Technologies. We're an information technology company, management, data protection solutions is one of the things I'm pushing these days. Been doing it 20 plus years, and you know, I've seen these before. I get the invites. I'm usually pretty busy. I don't just do that. I do a financial screencast at the end of the week. I do some music stuff, so I'm kind of doing a lot of little different things. But
yeah, somebody asked on the entrepreneurs community if people have multiple ventures or just one, and I think most people have multiple little things going on. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll be coming back. By the way, Philadelphia is getting to be seeming more dynamic than I would normally think of it. And a lot of people in Google Plus from Philadelphia, and just seems like a lot going on there. Is that a good perception, or?
It's well, I'm a New Yorker, so I'll apologize now to everybody because you guys know how we New Yorkers can be. That said, if I have to be honest, I'll say that for quite a while I was not happy with kind of the entrepreneurship environment here, the feeling. About 2 years ago, I got back to consulting full time, and I wouldn't change that. You know, it's just like everywhere, things are maybe a little bit slow right now, but I think they're improving, and I think Philadelphia is really trying to stand out for itself. There's a lot of advantages to being in Philadelphia than say New York or Boston or Baltimore, even DC. So I think it's getting better. You know, it's you know, maybe something to what you're saying there.
Yeah, people say that San Diego has an emerging startup community, but I'll tell you, I'm not feeling it yet. I don't know. It's kind of a corporate town. I don't know. I think it's getting there, but it's a little frustrating. But anyway, we'll come back to that. I want to get everybody introduced. Kenneth, hi Kenneth.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Good. I'm glad
Life
to
has
see it.
thrown some rocks at me, but it hasn't killed me yet.
Yes, this is true. I can see that you're up and alive and well, so it's good seeing you.
Alive is good, yes.
Yes. And thanks for the invite. It's been a while since I've been able to hang out just because of the fact that my schedule doesn't always allow me, but I had some time, and obviously this is one of those groups that I love to jump in every once in a while and hear what entrepreneurs are up to. So.
Well, that's great. We haven't done it for a while, so I know that you're a micro enterprise specialist, which is wonderful. And you're in Los Angeles, I believe. So you introduce yourself. Don't make me do it for you.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you can find me or the micro entrepreneur specialist just about anywhere on any social media platform. And for over 10 years, we've been helping entrepreneurs understand what the 5% of entrepreneurs know. And the 5% of entrepreneurs are those that make over $1 million. And they know something different than most entrepreneurs know. And I can say that because I wasn't one until I got the time needed with some of the great thought leaders, and I'm obviously talking about Michael Gerber and Ken Blanchard and some of the other great entrepreneur thought leaders to help me understand business from the perspective of a 5%er. So we've been doing that for 10 years now and enjoying it, especially for those entrepreneurs that are just starting out. So
outstanding. I know we're going to want to hear more about that, but let me get all the introductions in.
Sure.
Preston, I get your Central American country wrong every time. Is it El Salvador? I always pick. I'm getting a geography lesson from guessing wrong every time. What country are you in again?
I'm actually in Honduras.
See, I did it wrong again. I've guessed Costa Rica. I've guessed everyone. I didn't even know I knew all the Central American countries. Anyway, tell us what you're up to lately, Preston. How are your ventures going?
Well, it's going, obviously. I've been self-employed, actually, as my own business owner for 3 years now. Actually, 3 years this August. And it's been a ride at a lot of different things that I've been involved with. I do a lot of consulting in the tech field. You know, we have a pretty neat online business portal, if you will, and some other things I'm working with, like Skyline Webcams, which has some pretty cool live streaming webcams all over the world at beautiful locations. So I put up about 7 in Honduras now, and working on Florida right now. So, and I just recently, just because one of my clients in Florida decided that they needed it, I'm learning how to do whiteboard animation, and I got a couple of whiteboard animation videos out there already, and hopefully get hired by some people that have been in talks with. So.
Interesting. When you say the live cams, what do you mean? In businesses, live cams, or?
Well, yeah. What it is it's a tourist live cam. So, like a resort, they want to get more business, and right now resorts have to have pictures. I mean, that's why Instagram and Pinterest are very important to them. But with live video streaming, webcams have been around there for a while, but they haven't been really good quality, and it's really dependent upon, of course, their upload speed. If they don't have at least 200 kilobytes of upload, it's not going to work anyway. But if you have a higher upload speed, you get a high definition quality. And we got a whole bunch of them in Malta. We just put one in Malta, not myself, but my friend and international manager put one in underwater, actually, in Malta, so you can actually see the fish and everything. So I'm hoping to get one here in Honduras and Roatan, because I guess there's a place called the Blue Channel that has a whole bunch of teeming fish, and you see dolphins, and you see sharks, and everything. So I just don't know if I can actually put it underneath the water, so I got to do some investigating on that. But it would be cool if I could.
Boy, that sounds like kind of like the daunting. It sounds like an engineering. But yeah, you have some bragging rights if you pull that one off, man.
I hope it happens.
So live streaming, working underwater all the time. That just sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get everybody here. Sanjay, your live video disappeared, and your mic. You're gone. Sanjay's gone. Where is everybody? And let's see. Is Katie? Katie, are you back yet? Katie, can you hear us? Could somebody do me a favor? Because it's kind of hard for me to do. And it doesn't even have to be right now, but could you go look at the event page and see if anybody wants an invitation, because we got more slots here. if anybody still wants to come in, and just if somebody has a second to do that. But that's kind of the end of the formal part. What's on people's mind? What do people want to talk about? Let me ask it that way. I'll throw out a few suggestions, but does anybody have anything they want to talk about?
How about emerging markets?
Emerging markets.
Emerging markets.
Okay.
That's probably a good place to start.
That sounds like a great place to start. What are your thoughts? Like what? I have no idea what the emerging markets are, to tell you the truth. What do you think, Christopher?
Well, in our industry, emerging markets are new forms of energy for, say, power generation, new coal technology, new gas technology, anything to do with combustion. Right now, most of the modern, or let's use sophisticated stuff, is coming out of the Orient, and it's coming really a well-packaged piece of equipment.
Yeah. Well, you know, so much. I mean, the news from the Middle East is just so awful. You know, America just has no choice anymore to be energy independent. Maybe beyond energy independent, maybe an energy exporter, which I understand we actually are now. But yeah, I mean, energy is like absolutely an emerging market. So what you see, more natural gas stuff, or what do you see?
Believe it or not, what I'm seeing in the boiler industry is coal making a comeback. Coal and biomass, which is, you know, garbage burning.
Okay. So they're learning how to do coal a little bit cleaner, I take it.
Yes, you know, you do a multi-level combustion versus like they used to. Like think of the old days where people used to shovel coal in. Now they pulverize it to the consistency of talcum powder and blow it in through nozzles and burn it multiple times.
Okay. Any other thoughts on emerging markets, either energy or other? Anyone else have any?
Yeah, I had one. What do you guys think about hydrogen technology? And let me give some perspective. In I think it's Norway, they have, I think, what they call a hydrogen highway. It runs the span in the country, and there's a company called Lind there that I think has basically been the ones to do this, where they have hydrogen fueling centers so that people with hydrogen cars, they can pretty much go the whole span of this expressway. And it's something that I think a couple of weeks ago Toyota announced that they were going to do a hydrogen car, and it's been out there. The tech's been out there for a while, but it hasn't really hit here yet. You know, we're still talking about Tesla and natural gas and some other things, but my interest in it, because you talk about energy independence, is also looking at it from the energy grid point of view, where we take the energy grid and become more like the internet, where people are producing energy and then co-opting maybe a certain percentage of that back to a grid, as opposed to what we do now is pull from a grid. And it goes to not only what Christopher was saying, where, you know, it's not just your boilers and things like that, but it's just kind of the whole maybe energy technology in a cell concept at the residential level. I just want to maybe get some thoughts on people, especially from people outside the U.S., on where they see maybe that concept going, because I do think we're going to get there, but it's one of those things like which tech maybe is on your mind for that.
Can people still hear me? My screen just froze, so if I have problems, just jump in and kind of take over for me. Preston, you asked if you could have your lower third on. Of course you can. Can people hear me or not?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. If I do drop out, it just like the pop-up came on saying I froze, and then it just went away. Schwarzenegger was talking about a hydrogen highway for a while. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know why. I think they're going to go with natural gas. I'm not sure. But before we get back, Sanjay, you keep coming in and coming out. I wanted to introduce you. Sanjay, can you hear us? Sanjay keeps appearing and reappearing like a virtual particle. Other thoughts on emerging markets, whether it's in the energy industry or not, since we broached that broad topic. Hi, Sanjay, introduce yourself real quick before you drop away again.
I'm at a Starbucks. I don't know how clear my voice is coming through. Can you all
It's
hear
not
me
bad.
fine?
It's okay.
Yep.
Go ahead. Can you hear us, Sanjay? Would like tell us what city you're in. I already know a little bit about your venture,
Yes,
but I just
I'm in Irvine. I'm at a Starbucks. I guess I took the coffee break literally, So I'm at a
cool.
Starbucks. But no, I'm enjoying. I'm with the company Going. As you know, Rob, we made a great chat the other day. And what we do is,
Yeah.
we help promote small businesses and entrepreneurs through ogoing.com. So we help you get found. We help you connect with, over 10,000 businesses now that we have on Ogoing. And our goal is to really, help you make those trusted connections so that you can grow your business. Great to be here
Yeah,
on this
if anyone
call.
didn't hear that, his site is ogoing.com, and it's a small
Yep.
business community. And it's pretty good. I went on there. I registered for it the other day, so that's kind of interesting. And you are in Los Angeles. So we have a couple of people from Los Angeles here today. Just want to ask Katie, can you hear us yet? Okay, who else wants to talk about anything, emerging markets or anything else? Jump right in. This is just like if we were yakking outside.
I'll probably
if we have regular
talk a
offices.
little bit about India, if I may, because one of the things, as you know, is
Yeah.
I'm from India originally, and we have a new leader in India. His name is Mr. Narendra Modi. So he just got elected last month, and what I believe is he's going to really usher in a lot of huge infrastructure projects. And if any of you guys are into infrastructure, or if you know of companies who are into it, I mean, this is going to be the next 5 or 10 years. They're just going to invest massively. And one thing I just learned yesterday is, he's going to overhaul the entire, Indian railways. I don't know if you all know, but in India, over 23 million people, they travel every day on the railways. And that infrastructure is so old, it's not even funny. So
that's the entire population of California is on your railways. Yeah, that's amazing.
Every day, that's how many people use those railways.
You know what? Somebody broached this emerging market discussion, and one of the problems is most of us are either small businesses or mostly solopreneurs. As these are all big industrial, major deals. How could we, as mostly individuals, break into something like infrastructure? I mean, it's tough. You have to have a service business. I guess you have to. I don't know. I was going to say maybe you have to provide services to the service providers.
I mean, one way is to become a consultant, right? So I guess you have to find the right organization, within the government or within services that offer this thing to the government. If you have expertise in some area, what I've seen is, these guys are very open to have you as a consultant, where you can actually provide the knowledge, provide the expertise, provide, the education, right? So whereas we may not directly be involved in creating the projects ourselves, but what we can be involved in as a consultant, to either the government or to some of the larger companies who may actually undertake the project. And again, railways is just one example, but what I do believe is that these guys really want to invest heavily into all big infrastructure projects. So I would probably say, yeah, I mean, as a consultant, we have a shot at it.
Okay. Kenneth, you're uncharacteristically quiet.
Well, I was just trying to see if there was something I could jump in here with, and when I think of emerging markets, the first thing I think of is what Peter Diamandis talks about in his TED Talks, which is Moore's Law. And if you're not familiar with either Peter Diamandis or Moore's Law, the thing that's most important about what we know about emerging markets or Moore's Law is this. In your business or in your industry, if you're not aware of the things that are happening around your business, most of us are pretty much concerned about what's happening in our business or in our industry, but Moore's Law talks about what's happening around your business or your industry. And what that is the advancements of technology and how it's causing the effect of the duplication process, where we're seeing things happen at such a fast rate of change that most entrepreneurs are either way behind the curve or not even aware that something like that is happening or occurring. And for most entrepreneurs, when they get an understanding of Moore's Law, meaning that the technology that's happening around their business, that's changing their business, they then start to realize that the most important thing they need to be doing in their business is monitoring change. Because
could you give me an example of that? That sounds interesting. So change is happening around your business, but not directly in it. What would be a good example of that?
Say, for instance, we'll take any industry. We'll just take social media, per se, because obviously we're all using this. The change of technology around what's happening around business. For instance, we know that businesses need to communicate on their website 3 different ways now. They need to obviously have a telephone number that people can connect with them, an email, and now people want to live chat. And what we've seen is even Google has now given the ability for small business owners and for businesses, not even just small, to put on their website a Google Plus Hangout, a live chat. Because what's happening around business is we no longer want that static one frame, one idea of how to communicate. We want all these multiple ways of how to communicate. That change in technology.
I just did like a huge amount of research on this very topic for a content project that kind of didn't work out. There's a new technology. It's called WebRTC. It's actually not that new. It's embedded in. Originally was a Google project. They open sourced some technology. Then it got picked up. I can't never pronounce their name. The Firefox Mozilla. Is that how it's pronounced? Mm-hmm. I always want to say mozzarella, but that's the Italian cheese. But it's code in the browsers now that allow direct browser-to-browser communication. So in theory, now let me back up. What that does is you no longer have to have a plugin. Right. So before, when you wanted to connect with Skype or Google Hangouts, you would stop. You'd have to download a plugin. Maybe that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it actually kind of stops people from communicating a lot. You have to negotiate. If somebody else is on Skype, you have to say, well, should we talk in Google Hangouts? Should we talk on Skype? It just all gets complicated. This is going to put everything in the browser, and it really could be revolutionary. This technology is just really, really amazing.
And for me,
what they're saying it does. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying, and for me, that's what's most important about what entrepreneurs miss, and that is they get so stuck and focused working in their business, they don't take a 30,000-foot view of what's happening in their business or the industry and what's happening around it, and that change is happening so fast that if they don't have a finger on their pulse about the technology that changes, they're going to be literally taken out of the race, so to speak. And
well, that's you just broached something really interesting. I just want to interrupt because I want to give other people a chance. You're kind of talking about like trends in our society almost, and I'm wondering which ones you or which one other people here see, because I think there are some mega trends. And to tell you the truth, I think even social media is blinding us to some of that. And that's kind of a whole different topic on whether social media is working for us or not. But I've noticed an awful lot of people dropping out of social media and Google Plus, and they're all saying kind of, boy, it was just too much of a time sink. And I'm finding people, because if you concentrate only on the stream, you're kind of seeing what Google wants you to see. But if you do it the other way, if you do it backwards, if you start looking at your contacts and say, what are you guys doing lately? I'm finding a lot of people jumping out at Google Plus, and when I contact them, they all say the same thing. They're saying it just takes too much time. A lot of people say ROI. I don't really like that word. But what do you think generally? Since I just said a bunch of things, both social media and just general trends of our society. What is the bigger? What's going on around us? Go ahead, somebody. I'm rambling. So go ahead.
I was going before you made that point, Rob. I was going to take the devil's advocate approach because I've been using internet technology before it was a business, so I'm usually slow to get into things. I'm an engineer by education, and one of the things that I talk to my clients a lot about, or I get pulled into, is taking looking at that 30,000 foot view, which is very important. But then as the consultant or the technology expert in let's say the case of technology, I think the concept applies everywhere. But you have to become good at looking at trends. And there was, before there was Google Plus, there was Facebook, we had Twitter, MySpace, keep going all the way back, and I'll throw IRC out there, and some people are probably going to giggle because there's things change over time, but we don't always know where the winners are. And when you're a small business, you're looking at where you're going to put that coin. So it's sometimes taking a slower response to things is a little bit better. And I look at Google as an example of that, because I remember telling people that, everyone's gotten the question, right? Are you on Facebook? I'm not on Facebook. I'll actually never be on Facebook for lots of different reasons that I won't burn time here to talk about. But I was waiting for somebody to get it right. And I think Google has come, well, I'm obviously here, so I think they're doing a good job, right? But think about how many people have put money behind Facebook. And now Facebook's kind of, it's not that exciting. And just like you're saying, Rob, people are starting to say that about Google Plus. So now, if you were in that 3 to 5 year time frame in business development, and in this time span, because Google's what, 2, right? We just made 2.5 now or something. Okay, well, Facebook kind of fell off. Google's slowing down by some measures. Well, where do you go, right? So it's understanding trends, and I don't think we know exactly how to always do that. I think is important. I don't think I think maybe big data might have a long-term solution for that, but I'm not sure. And that's one of the conversations.
Can I jump in? This is Sanjay.
I totally want to hear your opinion, Sanjay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know we went around many other topics, but I think it really comes down to what you want from social media, right? So when it comes to Facebook, I think the advantage I find a lot there, and actually this is an insight that somebody gave me yesterday, who is a really good marketer here in Orange County. He says what it really helped everybody do, and it's not that it was by design, but what Facebook did was it really helped us connect with our past. And the reason he said the word past is because, look, you have your friends that you have made, and you're always making, but it's always the friends you made when you were growing up, your family, so people that you really hold dear to, and
I'm
that,
sorry to interrupt, Sanjay, but I just want to say one thing really quick. What people don't remember is when you used to leave college, before Facebook, before really internet at all. I'm showing my age here. When you said goodbye to people, you were saying goodbye forever for most of them, except for a handful of friends. You get their parents' number, and younger people don't know that. It was really sad, but anyway, go ahead, because you were saying Facebook.
And actually, there was a service called Classmates.com, if you remember, before Facebook, and they used to charge you like $99 or something a year just to be part of that, so you can connect with your old friends from college days. And really, I think what Facebook did was just clean that out. I think they just give a free platform where everybody can just go and connect with people. And believe it or not, I mean, I'm connected with folks I grew up in India when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, part of my society. And you know what, we even have a private group. Now, can Google Plus replicate that? I think it's going to be hard to just create a new platform where people will start sharing that. However, what Google Plus is able to do is able to create, I believe, kind of the more business connections. I think so. Where Google Plus is really coming ahead, I think, is hopefully in that business to business world where you can make probably a good business connection. You can see what that business is all about.
Yeah,
that's where they are succeeding. I mean, I don't think they've gone all the way yet, but I think that's where they'll probably end up doing it.
I've become more aware of a concept called use cases, and that's when they start analyzing kind of what went wrong. Some things did go wrong with Google Plus. They realized they were just they still are trying to connect with Facebook, and I don't get it. And the use cases. The reason Zuckerberg is running around, spending mega billions for these companies is they've captured a use case. People will decide to use a network for a specific purpose, and Google Plus tried to be everything. But more than that, they really did try to copy Facebook, and they're still doing it. When you get that, you should know this person because he knows 200 other people that you know. I couldn't possibly care less. That has nothing to do with anything. They should be saying, what our interests are. That's where they missed the boat, Mike. They never developed an interest-based system, and it should be their use case should be meeting new people because that's what we're using it for anyway. We're kind of repurposing Google Plus for what they didn't design it for. Anyway, I'm ranting. Someone else talk, please.
I'll jump in there. First of all, in regards to Facebook, one of the things that we know just in a recent article that was written about Zuckerberg, the reason why he's buying companies. The reason why he's buying companies is partly because Facebook has gotten so large, they're not able to adapt now quickly. Matter of fact, their mantra used to be in Facebook, move fast, break things. And what that meant was that as hackers or writers are, trying to really predict the next best thing, what ended up happening with Facebook, they got so big that their own internal structure started the process of slowing down the latest and greatest. Right. So Mark, it's really, I know we don't like Mark here, but from a standpoint of a business and merging technologies and insights, he realized within his own company, they weren't able to build and implement fast enough. And what was more beneficial was to buy these small startup companies. We know that they just spent, $16 billion on WhatsApp because they could do things faster. And it was Facebook's strategy to start buying emerging technologies because it was quicker than for them to actually create it. So just keeping on that line of emerging technologies, again, looking at Moore's Law and what Peter Diamandis talks about. And Peter Diamandis is the guy that created the X Prize. As a matter of fact, he just partnered with Google, and they are starting a new X Prize. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, with a $20 million, I think it's a $20 million prize if you're able to actually get the first I think it's maybe like a robot or something on the moon and be able to stream back in HD live, live stream technology. But really, what's happening around your industry? You've got to be able to get your head out of what's happening in your business to look at what's going around your business if you want to stay in the top 5%.
I've got 10 million things to say, but I want to hear from Kia, because Kia works at Google.
Yes, and yes, I did want to give kind of an inside view on some of the things that were said. Google is actually really going back to a philosophy that I brought up is before all of this technology existed, what were people doing? And I think that is where a lot of people in digital marketing, people that talk about social media marketing, they have forgot the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of what we all learned in college about marketing. And it's right now everything is going to video because TV is dead. I mean, I don't know anyone that sits and watches TV anymore. The DVR worked for a little while, but now people can carry shows with them in their back pocket. So I think that that medium that's disappearing, we need to find that connect again, which is if you look at the analytics on YouTube, Netflix and everything, they are outdoing everybody by miles just because they have realized video is where everyone has turned to. The TV set has come off. People are watching entire seasons at a time, and it's really becoming a congested market because everyone cannot market their brand or everything that they want to say on a web show per se. So I think that building up the independent shows and where Google is going with reaching out to YouTube creators. If you didn't know, they actually have studios in, I believe, LA and New York now, where people can go and they can create their own professionally produced YouTube series now. So I think that is where the junction is going from social media to being video based and catching that traffic that overall, from what I've seen, has been largely ignored now, and just getting back to the basics of what do people do, what does the consumer do, and from DoubleClick all the way down to the case studies that Google is putting out now, people are missing those resources, which are huge. The case studies saying what the consumer is doing right now. That is what people are missing right now.
Hey, Kia, can I ask you a question, or maybe you to co-sign or not co-sign something?
Hmm.
I guess maybe two things. But first, so Google would agree that content is king. That's kind of back to the basics, right? So with that acknowledgement, and you mentioned Netflix, who I think for a lot of reasons is really the leader in kind of what's coming next. What are we going to do, or what is? I made a statement on one of my streams once that, people saying, well, I don't like Netflix for this reason and that reason. I said, well, here's the thing. Other than Google and Netflix, who else is going to fight for the individual guy to produce content and get it out there and stream it? Because Comcast and Time Warner, that merger scares a lot of people. What happened with the FCC and this whole thing with centered around internet or net neutrality, that scares a lot of people. And, all of us here times 1,000 can't fight Time Warner and Comcast. Google.
Hey, Keith, can I interject with something really quick, because it's kind of a side issue. But you mentioned Comcast and Time Warner. I heard a really interesting conversation or point someone made. It was just a really short blog post, but apparently Comcast and Time Warner got together and they actually traded blocks of customers. And I don't remember which ones they were. It was something like, you guys take Cleveland and we'll take Philadelphia, or something like that. They would just trade hundreds of thousands of people like they were chessboards. And somebody made the really interesting point. They said, this was not how capitalism was supposed to work. The consumers are supposed to pick the companies. The companies aren't supposed to pick the consumers. And there was a huge discussion on Hacker News. It was just a point I thought was interesting. I don't know if it's related to what you said or not. But anyway, go ahead, someone else.
Yes, and I completely agree. What's going on with Time Warner and Comcast is they are scared out of their minds because Google Fiber is here. And Google Fiber means we don't need you anymore. We don't need a cable box anymore. The shows that we want to see are streaming online, and they're going through Google, and that's why they're building up Google Play, and they're really turning the focus to the future. And right now, it's a race to the future now. So it's as Google Fiber continues to grow in more cities and more areas, the fear factor for the cable companies are going to be there, and they're going to try to figure out what they can do by any means necessary to shut Google down. So that's what they're responding to.
Well, they've killed themselves by overpricing. I mean, nobody wants to spend $100 a month on TV. Even rich people don't. I could not.
Exactly.
But it just,
Well, the other thing, Rob, just to quickly circle back around to the competition thing, I think a lot of people don't realize that in the Philadelphia market, Comcast is a monopoly. So, for instance, Kia, I don't have a choice. Okay? I don't have a choice. I could go DirecTV and knock down some trees, argue with some neighbors or something. But I don't. That's okay. Maybe that's a choice. But when you look at cable, it's a natural monopoly. And it drives me crazy that every couple of, congressional sessions, here's Comcast and whoever in front of, the Senate saying about how, we're the network is, the networks are causing competition, we can't compete, and all this other stuff. And, when you look at the residential side, it's way too pricey. If Verizon lost the my screen might have froze here. Let me wrap it up. It's Verizon was supposed to do Fios here. We all know what happened with the whole Fios rollout, and it's just really never going to get done. So somebody, hopefully Google, comes to Philadelphia and other places, because it's really not a healthy market. There is no choice really, no real choice when two companies can trade people back and forth.
Right. It's not capitalism. Christopher, you launched this topic and you've just been sitting there politely.
Sorry, Robert.
What's your thoughts on all this?
Oh, well, number one, I live in a rural area, and we have nothing unless we want to go with one of the satellite dish, or we go with, like I'm doing on the wireless iPad right now. We have no options. We either watch network TV, or we get the satellite TV, or we do it online through Google, which is like what she said earlier, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I think Google should should throttle forward on this and really come up with a good package that's marketable to rural communities like the one I live in.
Well, what's more interesting is that satellite project of theirs. They're talking about launching 100 satellites or something.
Yeah.
And Google scares me a little bit. I mean, they're mostly well-intentioned, but there's been a few things here and there that I'm not a real happy camper about. Preston, what's going on in Central America? Costa Rica, whatever that country you live in.
I'm gonna have to put a meme together and say Honduras. No, you're talking about emerging markets. I mean, we are trying to establish that right now with what we do. With the partners that I work with. One of the biggest things that I'm working on, and it's difficult because unfortunately I'm not very well versed in the Spanish language. Which is my fault. I just haven't taken the time.
You speak any at all?
I speak a little bit, but very little.
Okay.
I usually use my wife for translation purposes. And then most of the days I'm I'm talking in English, so it doesn't help me.
Because everybody, this is an off-topic interjection, but I think everybody in America has learned Spanish on their list for the last 20 years, and you never do it. But I read something that if you memorize the 1,000 most common words in a language, then when you do sit down to learn it, pick up the grammar and structure, it just goes a lot better. Now, you probably are already better than this, but I found a great flashcard site that does exactly that, and so it has the 1,000 most common words in Spanish. Anyway, off-topic interjection. Go back to your point.
Yeah, but what I was saying is emerging markets. I mean, one of the things that I'm trying to do right now, especially with the video streaming, and because now we got the underwater camera available, is go to the Minister of Tourism, which I do have his name, and I've been lucky to be able to get in contact with him and tell him, look, my goal here is not necessarily to make profit for my company. My goal is to be able to promote tourism here, because people who've never been here before, which is a lot of people don't even know Honduras exists, but not a lot of people even know Roatan exists. And Roatan, if you go and map it and Google map it and actually see live video streams, or go to skylinewebcams.com, plug, and go into the Honduras section, you'll see how beautiful it really is. And to create that tourism is huge, because this economy is so hard to make money at. And the thing is the tourism industry is bringing in a lot of the money, and unfortunately crime happens because of that, not necessarily from the tourism aspect, but the people who are robbing the tourism when they get here. And of course, that gets sensationalized all over the news. But the fact is that if we can get like the Minister of Tourism involved with our project, that's an emerging market, because there are resorts all over the world that need to be able to showcase off their beautiful scenery without, not just the pictures anymore, not with the videos, but live streaming, so you can actually see what's going on at the time. So that's what I think is an emerging market, at least for what I'm doing.
Alrighty then. We've been almost 45 minutes now, so I'm going to wind down in the next 5 minutes. But so let me open up the floor before we do for anything anyone wants to talk about at all. I mean, just anything on anybody's mind, any rants, any whatever. Go ahead, anybody.
Well, if you want to, you can always visit I got a website, and you can always look at it if you like. It's leopaulandassociates.com. It's a Google-based website. It works pretty well for us.
Okay. And that's for your boiler business?
Yes, sir. I have one on Google Plus. Also, it's Leo Paul and Associates, and got one on Facebook, Instagram. So yeah, I kind of try and cover the whole media aspect of everything.
Okay. I've got to say hi to my very good friend, Alan Hoffman. I've done business with. He's a great guy. And Alan, you're catching us while we're just winding down. This started 45 minutes ago. How are you doing today? Oh, your microphone's a little flaky. Can you fix that? Well, now you're muted. Well, I'll tell people what he did while we work on that. But Alan is an international trade specialist in the northern part of Los Angeles, and he runs he does stock lot type work. When somebody is an overflow situation of material, he'll sell that. Kind of a trader, interesting business. He runs the liquidators community on LinkedIn. But is your microphone working yet, Alan?
That's just the name of it.
Alan, can you hear us? It's funny, I can hear you, Alan, but it's kind of in the background and can just barely hear you. So let's not worry about it. You can chat if you want. Or...
Well, I've seen your picture.
It's a handsome man. Kenneth, parting thoughts for you, Kenneth.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What are your parting thoughts?
I have to agree that where we're seeing things happening with business is the idea of mobile. And one of the things that's probably the most important thing that you could do as an entrepreneur is, first, we know that there's a statistic that says that 73% of people will buy your product or service after they watch a video on your website about that product or service. It really is the medium that is changing the way that people buy. But here's the big takeaway. The big takeaway is this. If you don't have a site that's mobile responsive, meaning that someone can't view your site on their phone or tablet, then you're dead in the water. And then the flip side of that coin is this. If you don't have your site ready to be able to accommodate the speed needed, you're dead also. So for entrepreneurs that are looking to take advantage of the next wave, the thing that's already here, matter of fact, it's not the coming wave, we're in the midst of that wave, and that is the technology and also the speed. We've been kind of talking a little bit about that, about different websites and different markets and net neutrality and all that stuff, but that is going to be, for entrepreneurs, the next thing they have to incorporate into their business and websites, because mobile and speed are what are going to help you get the needed sales and also customers that are required in the new future of business. So that's my takeaway.
Okay. Final points, anybody? I'm going to stop the broadcast. I'll keep the room open for a few minutes after I stop the broadcast, but anything you want to say while we're being recorded?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh.
Well, I was just going to say, just you mentioned Google Satellite, or what they're talking about, I think, a satellite service. And to what Kenneth was saying, I think it's going to open up a lot of new markets if they can really get some penetration into some areas that are still underserved in terms of bandwidth. With LTE Advanced, which is next wave of wireless technology from the Lex and iLex, it's going to be really interesting to see how far-reaching Google can be with their service, because there's I don't think we really know what the new face of the internet is going to be when we bring so many people online. Again, that haven't had this service, that are just
exactly, and it's almost scary a little bit because, I mean, Sanjay was talking about his country, India. We got to remember, I'm no longer a spring chicken, but the world is younger, and the numbers are vast, and I'm already seeing on Google Plus, with a lot of people are not great at English, but they're trying. But there's just a vast number of people coming up the pike here, and I guess we're going to have to be leaders and handle it somehow. I'm a little concerned about one company, Google, even though I think they're a good company, controlling that much of the world's infrastructure. I think that puts them almost in the place being like a government in a way. But it's going to be an interesting future, no matter how you look at it. Other parting thoughts.
And one thing I did want to mention, Google is really a champion for small business and partnering with small businesses. So there are a lot of opportunities to work with Google and to help your brand, especially in the age where you have people like competition that might be malicious or try to down your internet presence. That's the other flip side of things, is just competitors that will buy fake traffic and things like that. And Google is really starting to try to provide a safety net for small businesses, especially with what's going on with Time Warner and Comcast and the whole monopoly of the internet that it looks like they're trying to form. So definitely, if you have any questions about how Google can help you and help you spread your message and really bring your business to the forefront, that's one of the things that I specialize in.
Okay, but I do want to say that you kind of threw out two different issues there. One thing you said is Google's really helping small business, and then you talked about malicious stuff. Those are two different issues, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Google helping small business, I don't think you should give yourself too much of a high five on that just yet, because they're really going after the big partners. Most of their small business plays, as I've seen it, have really been PR based. That they haven't been really to help small business. They love doing the Richard Branson stuff. In a way, they got that Google complex in London now. They're trying to work with Startup Weekend. But to tell you the truth, everything I've seen from Google, and I mean almost everything, has been really a PR play, not a real sincere attempt to help small business. And beyond that, every single thing, I've looked for 2 years, so this isn't me just blowing off steam. I held my opinion for a couple of years now. Whenever they announce something, the first thing I look for is, where do I register? Since I've designed social networks myself from scratch, I know the registration, there never is one. It will be success stories and stuff, but anyway, I know that could be a debate. I know you have some disagreement, but what they're doing is mostly, like you say, forming partnerships with the top level people. I've never seen anything for it from me, and I've tried.
It's the specific program you're looking for is called Google Partners. If you just go to google.com/partners, that is where you will find the training. That's where you'll find where you can get registered. And Google is actually providing the technology and everything that you need to succeed.
Okay, well, I'll take a look. But I've also looked at that Google for Entrepreneurs. program. You know, and that's really a public relations play. There's another one called Accelerate with Google. I'm not sure what they're doing exactly. Google completely set up a competitive community for the entrepreneurs community. They would maybe say it's not competitive. But they have their own community on Google Plus now, staffed with 3 full-time community managers, presumably paid a fortune. And I think we're doing better than that on the entrepreneurs community. I want having a community that's run by and for entrepreneurs. But I will take a look. I'm certainly keeping an open mind, but I hope, you know, Google is in such a position to do some really, really cool things for small business, but just I haven't seen it yet. I would love it if they did.
Yeah, and I would say the focus right now is overseas and not on the Americas so much yet. So they are starting to try to transition some of those programs that are going on overseas to the Americas. So you'll see a lot more opportunities, especially as we go into 2015, to start being available here. But the focus, I will admit, has been overseas in the emerging markets and just developing business there.
Okay, I'm going to end on that note in the formal broadcast, and you don't have to leave the Hangout immediately if you want to say goodbye. But I would like to thank everybody who joined us from watching. This has been the Small Business Coffee Break. It's a program of the entrepreneurs community on Google+. We'll be doing a lot more of these, so we hope you join us next time. Thank you for listening, if you listened this long, and I thought it was an interesting talk today. So I'm signing out of the official broadcast. So thank you, studio audience.